Jen's a teacher as well. Okay, so we're at 105. So let's just sort of go time here. So again, for those people that joined us a little late, my name is Brian Johnson. I am the Recycling Coordinator and Public Information Officer for the City of Madison Streets Division, or Streets Division and Urban Forestry Department, or STUFF, as we've been calling ourselves since forestry sort of joined our division here. I'd like to quick thanks to the students of Van Nuys and Lowell Elementary, plus Marquette and Randall. We're all invited to be part of this program today. And same with the individuals who are watching on YouTube, which is more shared widely, whether it be on the engineering Facebook page or some other way you stumbled upon this channel. So thanks so much for joining us today. The topic that we're going to be talking about is really Arbor Week. We're a little late in celebrating Arbor Week. It was technically, what week was that, Marla? Last week, right? Was technically?
Yeah, that was supposed to be last week.
Yeah, because the April 24th was Arbor Day. But as we are all aware of our situation with the pandemic going on, we can't meet in person to celebrate Arbor Day, which has been typical for us, where we gather in a park, plant a tree together as a class, and answer any questions. We can't do that. We're doing this digital version of the event instead. And also typically, as part of the Arbor Day event, there's a small speech that the mayor tends to give. So I am going to play that video from the Mayor Satya recorded for us. It's the first time really doing a kind of thing like this, at least for me. So please excuse any technical trip-ups along the way. The video that the mayor recorded for us, we had a little file transfer issue, but what we have is great. I think we got some great photos of trees that we put on there. And so I'm going to go ahead and play that real quick, and then we'll get into the meat of the program, which is going to be seeing a tree planting operation that Marla Eddy here is going to narrate for us and kind of show you what we're talking. To explain to you what you're seeing with the tree planting process, what all goes into other facts and figures about the trees in Madison, other important things to know. We're going to end it with a little bit more about Arbor Day, and then answer any questions that may have come up during the proceedings if you're curious. So let's go ahead and get started with that very short message from the mayor. And I, of course, clicked the wrong thing.
Hi, everyone.
Whoops. And see, this is what I'm talking about. There we go.
Hi, everyone. Mayor Satya here, and I'm hoping to celebrate Arbor Day with you. So happy Arbor Day. I'm a proud tree hugger. I love the trees, and I hope you do too. Trees do such great things in our community. They provide shade. They help us use less energy. They clean the air. They help absorb the impact of rainstorms and lessen flooding. And they are beautiful, and we love them. So I hope that you are celebrating Arbor Day in your own way at home. It's sad that we can't be together planting a tree, but next year we'll be there. Maybe we'll plant two. In the meantime, take care of the trees around you. Enjoy them. Enjoy their beauty in the springtime. Get outside and hug a tree next time you can. Thanks so much, everybody, and happy Arbor Day.
Okay. Yep. So I did see there was one hand that got raised during that event. Let me see if I can make that work. I don't know how to answer that question, but we were going to have time to answer these questions after Marla does the talk there. The person just said hello. So hello back to you. So that was the quick message from the mayor. So and now we're going to show this tree planting video that again happened in Oldbrook Park here at the end of April. And then I'm going to shut my screen off here for a little bit while we're sharing the video while the tree planting is going on. And Marla can inform us all about what we're seeing, what's happening, what's important, what should we know and not know, or how do we take care of these young trees when they're planting. Marla knows all this stuff. She's awesome. So here, let's go ahead and get the tree planting video underway. Marla, is the video playing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and We have a couple of our arborists here. They're getting their planting ready. So, and let's unload this tree here and let's take a pause. And here we have in our forestry, we have a total of 42 people that work in the forestry section. And Craig Fundell and Aaron Adam Hanig are here working away in getting the tree planted and getting it all set. So we can start that video again. So we chose this site here at Obrick. It's right along the bicycle path. And what we're planting here is a container grown tree. And more specifically, what's being planted here is a Ginkgo Balboa tree, or it's also known as a Maidenhair Tree. And it's a deciduous tree that has a two-lobed, somewhat fan-shaped leaf. And yeah, it may look dead, but at this time of year, the trees are just coming out of dormancy. Their buds are just starting to wake up. And you're going to know that when you walk around in your neighborhoods too. Not everything has put their leaves out. So at this time of year, things are just starting to wake up. And what's really interesting about the Ginkgo tree is that this tree, or leaves of this tree, has been found in fossils dating back 270 million years ago. And this tree is going to be a narrow upright tree that is going to mature at about a height of 60 feet tall. So think about 60 feet tall, how that would measure up to a building. That's going to be at least a 5-story building. And then it's going to be about 30 feet wide. So about maybe the width of a road when you're going down the street.
So Marla, I paused the video here because this guy's giving a thumbs up in the video with the tree planting. What is he looking for right there?
Yeah, so what they're looking for is right where the tree has been growing and where that soil line is. Because once they're growing trees in a container, sometimes there's extra soil that gets added to the top of where those uppermost roots are. And in this situation, they're just looking for that, what we call the root collar. And that's where the point where roots meet the trunk. And that should be at ground level. So they were looking to making sure that this tree was going to get planted right at the proper ground level. And they're teasing away some of that soil that container had, and to find those fine root hairs. Those fine root hairs are really important for taking up any water and nutrients from the soil. So here they are, they're going to measure that again. Where is that root collar? And that's where those roots meet the trunk. So they've dug this hole out, and yes, oh wait, it wasn't the right depth. So they're going to add a little more soil in here just to make sure. And they want to tamp that down so it's solid for that tree to sit on. Measure it again. And you can see this soil here looks a little sandy. We are near the lake, but the ginkgo will do really well here. And so they place that in that hole. And is that root collar right level with the ground? Because once they start filling that soil back in, they want to make sure it's going to be at the right height. You can see. So Craig here is measuring that. And he's going to add a little bit more just to make sure. Because once you start adding that soil, we don't want that tree to sink down and then it's planted too deep. If it's planted too deep, then the tree roots cannot function very well. They can't exchange oxygen and water and so forth if it's not at the right height. So he's checking that. making sure it's centered in the hole.
When there's a quick cameo by a forestry operations supervisor, Craig Klinke there real quick.
Yep.
And the green coat.
And what they're doing here, it's really important, is to get that tree centered, because obviously this container tree has had, it's not, like concrete, it's organic. So one side might be a little bit fuller than the other side. So how do they get that so that it's straight, upright, and parallel to the ground, that trunk? And backfilling is really important here. And you want to be speedy about it, because you don't want anything to dry out while this container and all these roots are exposed and the container's no longer on the tree. So, when they were looking at that, they're making sure that that tree and the branches are in the right spot. So they're filling in with the loose soil from where they dug everything up. And so they want to make sure when they are doing this that they're adding water as they're going along, and because they want to collapse any large air pockets in the soil. And this will help stabilize the tree in the hole. So you can see what I call making, mud soup here. That water will go into the soil and kind of displace some of those air pockets. And you might even see some bubbles coming up in this video where that air is being displaced by the water. And they're tapping that down, making it solid. Again, making more like a mud pie. And then breaking up any of those large clods of soil that just aren't going to break up them on their own. And raking that all in, putting more soil around the base of that tree, and finishing that off. And then whatever soil isn't needed, they're going to pull that away. The next thing is we want to make sure that when we put this tree, because it is something exposed for the wind near the lake, is putting some stakes in. So they're going to use the post pounder, and then you see there's some wire and some strapping. And they made sure that the stakes were outside the area of the soil that they just planted with. And what they want to do is they want to put those ties that they're loose enough around the tree so that the tree can move back and forth just slightly in a high wind. And these stakes are usually needed for one growing season. And if it does get a little windy or it does tip, we'll leave it on for a little bit longer than that. So we will be back to take these stakes off. But you can see it's done very loosely. It's a nice light piece of cloth and very light wire. And just making a slight twist to that so that it stays to the T-post. And we saw that earlier in the picture where this tree was going. There wasn't many other trees around it. So just a little bit of wind could unsettle it. And now they're helping each other. Is this straight? Yes. All right, we're going to finish this off here. the lake behind it. Next thing is mulch. This is really very important, is mulch. So what they're doing is going to cover the planting area with about 4 inches of layer of mulch. And this mulch is actually recycled from our own trees that we removed over the last year or so. And in streets, we grind the wood up into making this wonderful mulch. And mulch is good because it keeps the topsoil at the perfect temperature for tree root growth. And it reduces any sort of evaporation of water, keeps the weeds out, and it can slow and stop the grass growth around the tree's base. And it's also a good reminder not to step or mow around the tree. So it can help with when we're doing our mowing operations around the tree in the park. We are a Tree City USA. We've been a Tree City USA for quite a while now, 31 years. And there's Craig, Adam showing our Tree City USA flag. And we did have a proclamation this year, as we do every year, to tell everyone in the city about why it's important to celebrate trees in our community. So we did a proclamation, the mayor and the common council. So a proclamation is a public or official announcement of an important matter. And so that we did. And so April 26th through May 2nd was our Arbor Week celebration. And schools we were planning to celebrate with this year. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that this year, but we are being able to do this great opportunity to share the planting with you now. So do we have any questions, Brian, that anybody would like to ask or find out more?
Yeah, we have three that are, one that came in on the Q&A panel. I'll scroll through the chat here to see if I can find any more, but the first one from an anonymous user is like, why does the tree have no leaves? You kind of answered that a little bit in the video, but if you wanted to mention that again, like what's going on with that?
Yeah, so this time of year, trees are just starting to wake up from winter dormancy. And so from our perspective, we may not have seen the little tiny buds that are on the tree, but if you were to go outside today, I think you would see that if you were to walk in your own yard and you see where those buds are starting to turn green, just under that, where the buds are starting to expand and bring their leaves to life. And so that's why there was no leaves on that tree. It's still waking out of its dormancy. It's still waking up from winter slumber.
The other question was about the tree staking process there. Said, shouldn't the tree be strong enough to withstand wind?
Well, in this situation, when trees are grown and then they're harvested out of a tree nursery, what happens a lot of time is they don't have those big anchor roots at this point. They have, if you looked at the video, we had those fine root hairs, but none of these big root anchors. And root anchors would be about a little bit more like a twig. And so it really doesn't have those big stabilizing root anchors to keep it upright at this time. This tree will grow into that once it gets planted and settled. So this is a young tree. It's been trained and encouraged to have those nice fine roots. And so it's going to need a little help, especially with where it's being planted, right exposed near by the lakefront. Has anybody been to this park, Ulrich Park?
Shoot, I haven't scrolled through the chat enough to see the answers yet. Yeah, I'll get there. Somebody wrote yes in the Q&A, so it looks like there's at least one yes that's in there. Mom.
Yay, yeah. Maybe there's an opportunity because it's right along the bicycle path where this tree was planted. Again, it's a ginkgo, and this tree is a very good urban tree for us. We don't have many in our landscape. Ginkgo is a slow grower. It grows slow like an oak tree would. And as I mentioned before, this tree has dated all the way back to prehistoric times. And it loves the sun. It's very sun tolerant. It does best in full sun. And with the pictures, you can see that it's going to get plenty of sun. It doesn't have a lot of competition by it, other trees shading it out. So you can see it's going to really enjoy. And it does love whatever kind of soil it puts it in. And it can adapt to both dry and wet locations. And in this situation, there might be a little bit of some water because it's so near the lake. And we had a little bit of sandy soil there. And it really enjoys or it's very tolerant of urban pollution that we have in the city. And it handles any environmental salt that might come out, especially if there's some salting along the path to make it safe here. And in the fall, it will have yellow leaves.
There's one question from, It says, why would the soil be so sandy by the lake there? Do you know anything about what makes the soil so sandy at that particular park, or why there?
Well, we do know from the lakes and along our lake edges that there is a sandy sort of profile just for the way the lake is formed and what existed there before. So it's sort of natural if you go to some of our beaches where there is sandy soil, that over time there's just to make up that soil. Whereas when you looked at the tree and it came out of the container, the soil was much darker in color. And that's the organic type of soil that it was growing in. But this tree would withstand that soil, that sandy soil, and that sandy soil is going to drain very well. So it's not going to be a wet site for that tree.
Yep. And so I had a question actually for you too, Marla, is that whenever they were putting the mulch down, they made basically a crater kind of right around where the trunk meets the ground. Like, was that deliberate? Like, why do you need the mulch separated like that, or kind of bowed out?
Yeah, that's a good question, Brian. And the reason why you want it away from that trunk and you want to create like a moat or like a little wall around where that tree was planted, and then put that out on the edge of the planting hole. So that way it keeps that moisture within that area where we just dug up that soil, and we have all those fine baby hair roots going on with the tree. And so we really want to make sure that that mulch is going to keep any sort of water or moisture in that area, and also keep any weeds or any grass from trying to come in and invade the space where we just planted that tree and where those roots are. Because grass and weeds can compete with that tree to get any sort of water and nutrients from the ground in the area where it's growing.
Okay, thank you, Marla. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you don't want the mulch to touch the trunk of the tree, because at that point, any sort of mulch touching the trunk of the tree, they can actually harm the tree, the bark of the tree, and cause some competition, and that isn't really good for the young bark of the tree.
Okay, well, and that's seemed to be the last bit of the questions, actually. that we had were those handful. And I can't think of anything off the top of my head either. Actually, I got one. So so in urban forestry, you're actually more in charge of the trees along the side of the road more than in parks. Would that be fair to say, right? More like the city right-of-way trees, I guess.
Yeah, right. Urban forest, sort of what we call an oxymoron, and trees between the curb and the sidewalk and the public right of way is what we oversee in forestry here. And parks has a great arborist crew as well, participating and helping with managing of the trees in our parks.
So how many trees would you say, like, I mean, have we counted all of the trees along the side of the road? Like, how many trees are we talking about that are sort of like Marla's to keep track of here in the city?
Yeah, when we look at that, we have counted the trees, and we're right about 96,000 street trees.
Wow.
Which, when you think about it, and how does that even play into what our population of our city is? So one tree for almost 2 people is the ratio, maybe. So every tree that we have, at least along the street, 2 people per tree.
Well, we did get a question in the chat from Sadie asking, do you work with tree health management?
Tree Health Management, a company here, a commercial tree care company. They do have opportunities for residents to adopt ash trees in our parks. When emerald ash borer came through our city, we provided the opportunity for our neighborhoods and residents to adopt park ash trees to treat them, to protect them against emerald ash borer. And I believe that company has been involved with the neighborhoods to help them adopt those ash trees that needed some protection.
And actually, that you brought up that emerald ash borer thing. So, like, what is that exactly? Is it like a disease? Is it a fungus? Is it a bug? Like, what does it do, and why is it a problem? Some of the people in the audience may not have realized how long we've been dealing with this problem. Can you give us a little bit more info about, since you brought up emerald ash borer, can you tell us a little bit more about what that is, what it does?
Right. So the emerald ash borer is an insect that came from China, and it was first discovered in Detroit, Michigan. And the unusual thing is that this insect that came from shipping material, shipping crates, it really, because it's invasive, it's not a natural insect here in the United States. So it goes after our native ash tree population, and our native ash trees don't have a way to fend for itself. And so the emerald ash borer actually ends up killing the tree over a period of time. And it kills the tree in the larvae stage, in the worm stage. It's like a worm underneath the bark of the tree, and that eventually eats away at the sort of the vessels of the tree, the phloem and the cambium area of the tree. So then it eventually does die unless you treat the tree. And so we discovered emerald ash borer here in Madison in 2013. And at this point, we have just over 10,000 ash street trees out there and along the street that we are treating and making sure they are safe against the emerald ash borer.
Okay. Well, I think that was the last question actually that we have in here. I'm not seeing any other in the Q&A.
Sadie did a good job. She said it's a beetle
right.
that eats trees. Yeah.
Yeah, good job, Sadie. I should have acknowledged that. That was right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other parting thoughts about trees in general, Marla, do you want to share with our audience today that we have about things they should know, things they should care about, things like that?
Yeah. And I think, with all that we are going through, and it's still important to make sure we enjoy and get outside to enjoy our environment. We heard Mayor Satya say, get out and hug a tree. And I think that's really important because when we're in nature, we do know that being among the trees, being outside, being among nature really does help us with stress and with our health. And there are so many benefits that we get from being outside and being among the trees and the plants. And really just take that time to get out. And if you do see this tree, and if this tree is in your neighborhood, watch out for this tree. Make sure it's safe, it doesn't get vandalized, or branches get pulled on, or the stakes pulled at. And if you see something that is in your neighborhood, let us know about it as well. And tell us if there's something that you need to have care for your own street tree. We'll be there to help you with that.
There was one last PS question, Marla, that came in the chat, mostly because I want to know this too. I didn't know if you knew the answer to it. Someone asked, what's the oldest tree in Madison? Do we happen to know?
The oldest tree that I'm aware of is actually something that is over by the Randall Elementary School. It's one of our heritage trees, and it's a very, very old oak tree that it's actually in our heritage tree program, where we've designated it as being really important. And it was originally there when all the other houses were being built around. So it's a wonderful bur oak that we have over by Randall Elementary School.
Well, excellent. Thank you very much, Marla. And again, thank everybody else for joining us today. If you're looking for more information about what City Forestry does, you can always go to their website, which is www.cityofmadison.com/forestry. You can also just check out the Streets Division website as general. The Streets Division does a lot of things for you. We pick up your recycling, the trash, the brush. We plow the streets in the winter, and all sorts of other things. All that's going to be on that Streets Division website, and that's cityofmadison.com/streets. And the Arbor Day Foundation, their website is arborday.org, right, Marla? I think that's their site. That was on the end of the video.
Site.
Yep. So they can always check them out as well. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. Go hug a tree, everybody, or plant one yourself. That'd be good too. Or after getting it correctly undergrounded and all that other stuff too. So thanks again. Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody.